There was something extremely powerful about this journey. When you wake up every morning to the thought of, I'm running around the world. This is almost a magical thought. This is why there was never any morning, not one morning in 2.5 years, where I just didn't wake up and wanted to be on the road, even if it was pouring outside, even if it was minus 10 Celsius, or if it was 45 Celsius and a heat wave. Whatever the condition, I wanted so much to be on this extraordinary, magical journey of mine that maybe I have a tendency to take everything to heart, really, in my life, but this was definitely the pinnacle of it.
Welcome back to the 10 Adventures podcast. A big part of travel, especially adventure travel, is challenging ourselves. Our guest today knows all about challenges. Marie Leautey is a French ultra-endurance runner who has literally run around the world and recently published Loutie's World Run, a great book about her journey. Known for her resilience, strength, and determination, Marie pushes the limits of what's possible, and today she's going to share what she has learned. Hi, Marie. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Richard. Thank you.
So you were a CFO who became the fastest woman and only the second woman to run around the earth. How did your life evolve to become this ultra runner?
It's a mixture of two things, really. I've been living a very nomadic life since finishing my studies, since my 20s, early 20s. I left France to finish my studies abroad, and then I never looked back and I never returned to France because I found out it was such an adventure that gave me such excitement to just go in a country where you don't know anything, you barely know the language, or sometimes you don't know it, you don't know the social ways, you don't have the codes, and you just settle there, find a job or something, and say that's it, that's gonna be home. And I find it very exciting and a great way to feed my curiosity about the world. So I went from Scotland to Germany, Switzerland, Greece, and then Asia, Southeast Asia, Singapore. This was the way I was living my life, and my career, which evolved through different stages of finance to CFO, was my way of moving around the world. And running came into my life when I was 26 years old. At that time, worst notice, I was smoking a packet of cigarettes a day, and I was slightly overweight. But I hadn't realized the impact it had on me. And it just on one day when friends invited me to join them over for a run, I realized to my dismay that I couldn't even run 500 meters. And I was utterly shocked. I was shocked. I was disgusted in myself. I felt extremely angry and humiliated. And on that very day, I ditched all the bad habits and started cycling everywhere, commuting by bike to everywhere, and running every day. And that has changed as well my relationship to the world. So when I get posted to a new country, a new town or something, when you have running as a way of also exploring the environment, it is a lot more, you get a lot more reward from it, and you get to see things that you wouldn't otherwise see. So that's how my career, my nomadism, and ultra endurance sport became entwined into the fabric of my life, I guess.
I love hearing origin stories about how people decided on a big trip. And so how did you decide to run around the world? Like, that's a pretty wild thing to kind of just cook up one day, over coffee or something.
It was, I describe it as a moment of serendipity, really. And it couldn't be more, when I'm at work, so I was a CFO back then. I must have been 38, 39 years old in Singapore, very comfortable life, beautiful view from my office of the Bay of Singapore, Marina Bay and everything. And you know how it is when you're I had been in Singapore for 6-7 years, so I was really starting to, maybe I had seen what needed to be seen in Singapore, and maybe that's why my mind was drifting. And I was on a phone call that lasted forever. I was a bit absent-minded. And when I'm on a call, I'm always doodling. I love doodling, anything. And I was doodling in my notepad without really thinking what I was doing. I think I was just looking out at the bay and drawing what I saw. And then when I hung up the call, I looked at my doodles, and one of them, I swear I didn't realize, represented a globe, the Earth, with a little woman running on it. And I looked at it and I thought, oh, that would be such an amazing adventure running around the world. And I thought, does that even exist? So I went straight to Google and I asked, does that exist? Has anyone ever run around the world? And Google told me, yes, 5 men and 1 woman have done so. And so I thought, oh, wow, so it's possible. And from then on, from the moment I drew the doodle to the moment I started, 2 years elapsed. So in these 2 years, I did all my preparation. That's how it came to me.
And what was the route you decided on? There's so many ways to run around the world. Where did you start? Where did you go through? And where did you end?
Yeah, well, the good thing about as soon as I started doing my research about has it ever been done, then I found out that these 6 people before me who have run around the world, they created the World Runners Association. And it's a body, an association, whose task it is to set the rules of what exactly constitute a run around the world, knowing that planet Earth is 70% water. So, you got to make choices. You can't run across the oceans, for a start. So I'm just there are 10 rules, but the most important ones are you have to run a minimum of 26,232 kilometers, because if you follow the globe on one particular line of longitude, the maximum amount of Earth you will encounter is actually this number, 26,232. So that's how the number was set. Now you have to cross a minimum of 4 continents in its entirety. That means from one ocean to another. So, for instance, North America has to be from either of the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean. There is no shortcut. You can't just run a little bit and say, I've done it. You have to go in a continuous direction, either east to west or west to east. You have to pass by 2 antipodal points, which are 2 points that are opposite on the surface of the globe. That's it for the main rules, really. And it really helped me. You know how we say rules are a constraint or anything? For me, these rules were my guides because I had no idea how to draw my itinerary. So with these rules in mind, then I had my maps everywhere and I was starting to see which continents can I cross, which one are the safest also, maybe for a woman alone, because I was gonna be alone there. So I chose in the order to run across Europe. And Europe is the only continent that doesn't finish with an ocean, but finishes with a gate to Asia, which is in Istanbul in Turkey, or at the Ural Mountains. So Europe, Australia, North America, South America, and then back to my start point via a little run on the African coast and back to my start point, finish point in Europe. So that's the itinerary I had chosen.
What's an average day when you're running around the world?
Typical day for me was to make sure that I could enjoy the adventure. So the running was the affair of the morning. So I would wake up before the break of dawn and just get myself ready. And then I would run my marathon, which is, I think my average was about 41, 42 kilometers a day. And so I would run that in the morning. I would finish at lunchtime. So that means I get to my destination by lunchtime, refuel, and then I'll have the afternoon to really enjoy the place, to meet people, if that was something, or just see what's around me. Of course, relax a little bit, because after a marathon, when you have to run another one the next day, maybe you like a little nap in the afternoon or something. Write my blog, update my GPS position, download all my Garmin's Strava data and everything. And then get ready for the next day. And the next day again, at the crack of dawn, get ready, run my marathon in the morning, reach a new destination, and on and on. So that's how it was. That's a typical day for me.
You saw so much of the world, so many different places, and also being on foot, a lot of places that tourists never go to. How did the landscapes, the people, and the culture you interacted with along the way improve or impact your experience?
Well, that was 100% part of why I wanted to run around the world. It was never just about the running. If it was about the running, I would have done something else, I guess. This was for me, A, the most exciting adventure I could think of, and B, this was my life quest. I told you about my nomadic existence. And what I'm seeking out is to get to see the world, as much of the world as I can, and to meet cultures that I don't know, to learn about history, about civilizations, to learn about even geology, everything really. And this world run was almost giving me lessons on a daily basis. When I cross, I don't know, South America for a start, I don't know anything about the Mapuche. I don't know how many people in the Western world knows about the Mapuche. Well, there were the people who were living in Chile before the pioneers arrived, and they are still there. They have been depossessed of their lands and of their cultures and many things. They are having a hard life, a little bit like the Indians in North America, I guess, some of the tribes. And I met some of these people, with third generation, who are struggling to keep their culture together, their beliefs and everything. And I felt so extremely privileged to run on their land and to meet with them and to get to hear their story and to get to hear how they are fighting for themselves even now. And the number of things they've understood about the incredible balance of all things on earth that we have been so quick to say, that just savages people, they don't know anything about modernity, but in fact, they probably knew a lot more than we did. Not just probably, but they did. So anyway, this interaction was constant. And when you cross the Andes or when you cross the desert in Australia, these are things that imprint an impression on you. It's almost as if I've got in my head the movie of the crossing of these 4 continents with all my senses, what I've seen, what I've heard, what I've tasted, what I've trodden with my feet, what I've smelled. It's like an incredible woven of experiences, and it is so rich. I mean, I've gathered the richest experience of the planet I think I could get, really.
Part of this must have been just the tremendous physical and mental challenges you faced. Yeah, I couldn't imagine every day waking up and running another marathon. Doesn't matter how your body's feeling. What did you find to be the most challenging aspect of the run? And then how did you push through that?
Interesting enough, I started my world run in December 2019, which is exactly 3 months before the pandemic. So as I was only 3 months into my running, you can imagine, things are still at the early stages of the journey. You are still not sure if the body's going to hold, you are still very humble with the huge task in front of you. And of course, I get grounded because COVID meant I was crossing Italy at that time. And Italy was the first country in the world to declare a national lockdown. So I was literally kicked out of the country. So I had to stop, put a hold on the world run. I contacted the World Runner Association and say, we've never seen that before, a pandemic. They said, don't worry, it's unheard of. So we give you time off until you can restart from the same point. So I was grounded for 3 months. But it was not the end of it because, after 3 months, I could resume my route from Italy where I left it. But all other continents were closed. I couldn't go to North America. Even if I had my 10 years visa to the US, they didn't accept anyone because it was before the vaccine and all that. So I couldn't go to North America. Australia was closed, got closed for 2 years. Asia was a big no. You couldn't get into Asia. All the other continents, South America, Africa, everything was closed. So I was stuck in Europe. So what was supposed to be a 7,000-kilometer run across Europe from Portugal on the west coast to Istanbul, the 7,000 kilometers, 6 months of running became 15,500 kilometers and a year and a half of running. I was literally going everywhere I could to still progress in the same direction, but trying to hold off reaching the destination because I knew if I reached Istanbul too early, there is nowhere for me to go. So I had to slow down as much as I could and run from north to south and whatever to time my arrival in Istanbul to when the next continent is going to reopen their door. So that was an amazing challenge. It was a challenge every day. Europe was a maze. Countries would open their borders, and the next day they would be closed, and the next day the tourist industry would be up and running. The next day it would not, and then it just kept changing. It was, a logistical maze.
How did you stay motivated when, it seems from the outside everything was against you to make this not happen? It seems a lot of people have just said, okay, well, this is not meant to be, and they would have given up. But you didn't. You found all these innovative ways to keep going.
I think for anyone whose motivation and a real reason for going on this journey, for anyone whose motivation was not deeply anchored with certainty, then it would have exploded. And it would have been the golden excuse to say, well, I was deep into it. I was 3 months, but COVID, so I had to give up, good excuse. For me, it was completely the opposite. During this time of post-COVID lockdown and, this period where we were still waiting for the vaccine and whatever, I felt the immense privilege of being free, experiencing my freedom without breaking any law. I was only going to countries where it was allowed to actually move and to stay in hotels or in whatever I could stay in campgrounds or something. So once the rest of the world was learning to live behind four walls and to worry about meeting others or going other places, I had this absolute freedom, which I was using. It was not absolute because I had to play with where can I go, etc., of course, but I still had this freedom, and I saw the impact it had on others. When people met me and said, what are you doing? What are you doing running here? And I would tell them what I was doing. I mean, it still sends shivers down my spine. So many people got so emotional that somebody was out there trying to be free and doing it. And so it was the opposite of demotivation. It was ultra motivation for me.
Are you like this kind of in your regular life? Do you deal with adversity really well and keep on pushing through, or was it specific just to this run that the run was just so emotional for you to complete?
There was something extremely powerful about this journey. When you wake up every morning to the thought of, I'm running around the world. This is almost a magical thought, This is why there was never any morning, not one morning in 2 years and a half, where I just didn't wake up and wanted to be on the road, even if it was pouring outside, even if it was minus 10 Celsius, or if it was 45 Celsius and a heat wave. Whatever the condition, I wanted so much to be on this extraordinary, magical journey of mine that... So maybe I have a tendency to take everything to heart, really, in my life, but this was definitely the pinnacle of it. Yeah.
We had Robert Pope on the podcast, and he ran across America 5 times, a bit like Forrest Gump. And he talked about just how physically devastating it was, especially on the last crossing where his body just gave up. Did you have the same physical issues where your body just slowly disintegrated and you struggled just to do your regular mileage? He also actually, at the start, it was really tough. I think his first crossing was plagued by injuries and stress fractures and just lots of things that really made him worried. Can I physically do this?
So when I started my preparation, so 2 years, it lasted 2 years. I didn't know how long it was going to last. One thing in my mind was, okay, what am I going to deal with here? If I look at the statistics, between 50 and 70% of anyone who attempts a marathon in their season will get injured, either during the preparation, during the run itself, or after the run, things like overtraining and then overtraining injuries and everything. So I was like, if for running one marathon, my chance is 50 to 70% chance of getting injured, there is no way I'm going to be able to run this equivalent of 700 marathons every day. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. So what I did is I restarted everything from the bottom up, which means I went back to the anatomy charts to understand how the foot works, how all the joints, ligaments, and muscle work. So for 2 years, I studied that. I studied proprioceptions. I work as well with a physio to help me reprogram my body. For instance, I'll just give you one example, but there are so many to give. We are absolutely not meant to land when we run on our heel. if you land on our heel, no matter how good your shoes is, and they sell you that they have super extra cushioning heels and carbons and foam and whatnots. If you look closely at your foot, there is a part of the foot that is extremely cushioned, and it's called the ball of the foot. And if you wonder why it's cushioned, because that's where you should land. And when you land there, your foot actually amortizes the shock. And by the time the shock reaches your heel, there is an infinite proportion of that shock that reaches the heel, and therefore your knee and your hip and your back, etc. So it was about reprogramming the body to work as it should work. Because I thought, I'm going to be out there for 2 years, 2.5 years. I was not sure. If it's to be in pain, I'm out of there. I don't want to be in pain. I don't want it. Injury, pain was my enemy. I didn't want any of that. So as I was running, I installed a routine, which I call the body scan. So for instance, here we are in the morning. I'm running my marathon. I'm maybe 10 minutes into it. And I start the body scan. I start from the tip of my toes. And I go, it's a mental thing. How are my toes? Is there anything chafing? Are they okay? Is my shoe not too tight or whatever? And then I would go the bottom, the plant of the foot. And then I would do over the foot. And then I would do the ankle. And I would pay attention to any signal my body would send me. Because what happens when you are an endurance runner is you are programmed in your mind to ignore any signal. And you go with no pain, no gain. If you want to be good, you have to suffer. And this is how you get better. I had the totally opposite mindset. If my body sends me a signal, is that there is something that is starting to go wrong. If I don't address it now, well, there's an injury down the line. Do I want it? No, address it now. So I was doing this work, this body scan, which was from my toes, literally to the base of my neck. I was reviewing everything. And whenever there was something, I would address it. Am I running too much on trails? Is there too much uphill at the moment? Can I change my route to accommodate because my ankles are not doing so well? Do I need to change my shoes? There is a variety of ways to address signals of discomfort from your body. If you ignore them, injuries. If you don't, well, the only number I'm absolutely proud, over the moon about, is 700 marathon, almost 30,000 kilometers run, 0 injuries. 0.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned the running gait, because I just took a course with a running coach. I think it's exactly a week ago today, and he was showing me video about how I'm doing this heel strike, and he's like, "You're gonna kill yourself. Like, your leg is straight, you're hitting with your heel, all that force is brought all the way up." So now I'm doing these little 15-minute training sessions about going all on the ball of my foot. And even where I strike it, it's okay, don't strike your foot underneath your body, because then basically your ball, your foot, and your knee absorb all of it, as opposed to this straight leg strike. And I could have saved $200 if I just had this podcast a week ago instead of going to him. But it's he says that's like one of the biggest issues we make as runners, because all that force, with the straight leg and the heel, just destroys your knee, destroys your hips, hurts your back, hurts your neck. And it's just so logical when you see it, but you don't know it until someone tells you about it.
It is logical, but it is against the grain of the industry. The industry is selling your shoes. So when you open a running magazine or something, they are all trying to sell you the shoe with the best heel. And it is so absurd, but of course I don't have a big voice. What I've done is very niche, and my voice is very low, unfortunately. I would love to have more voice and to knock some sense into that. And, we are a few. There is a good running clinic in Canada, actually, that I've worked with for a while. Maybe that's the one you've consulted with. Blaise Dubois is La Clinique du Coureur. I don't know. They are very good.
No, it's just, it's a tri club here in Calgary with a coach who's been doing this for 20 years. You're obviously super analytical in how you approach the day-to-day, but is there another way how you kind of broke up this massive goal into more manageable steps? When you first looked at this, how did you think you'd be able to do it? Did you break it down and say, I've just got to do, some people say, I just got to do the first 2 weeks, or I just, they're always planning 3 days ahead. How did you break down 700 plus marathons into something that you could kind of say, okay, I can keep having these small wins?
Yeah, well, during my 2 years of preparation, there were three things I was preparing on. There was, of course, physical, how many kilometers a day can I run and do it again the next day? So I had to test that. The logistic, which was doing my route and break it down by marathon. So I've got this huge Excel spreadsheet, which was like, okay, first day I go from Lisbon to there, the next day from there to there, and this is how many kilometers, and this is the type of route, and this is what I find when I arrive, something to sleep or to buy food or water. It was an extremely detailed organization. And the aim of that was not to say, okay, is that the plan I'm going to follow? The plan was there to prove me that there was a way. If I was able to build this plan, from my ID to the to the moon, the plan is is like the ladder that takes me there, literally. So with the ladder in place, I thought, okay, the ladder will move because so many things will happen that I can't control or anticipate. But at least it's possible to put a ladder between this crazy ID. And so with all this plan, physically, what I did was, okay, it just so happened when I had this idea that my job was located exactly 20 kilometers away from my home. So I thought, okay, after every day at work, what you're going to do is you're going to put your shoes on and you're going to run home. Run home as opposed to come running to work in the morning, because then I don't have pressure. If you come running in the morning, you have pressure to be at work at a certain time. You have agenda, meetings to attend and whatever. If I'm running home in the evening, it doesn't matter. And if it's too hard, I can sit down and wait for everything to feel better and then start again. I have no pressure. So it turned out that running these 20 kilometers a day after a full day of work was actually okay. So I thought, hang on a minute, I'm a CFO. If you take away my hard day at work and you tell me the only thing you got to do is another half marathon, I felt this is easy. So what I did was I started using all my holiday and long weekends to try it, really. So I would say, for instance, okay, I'm taking 5 days off and I'm going to run on a circuit, like 300 kilometers or something, and I'm going to do 5 marathons in 5 days with my camping gear, with my food, water, and everything. And I would just do it. So I tested 3 in 3 days, 5 in 5 days, 8 in 8 days, you name it. I used absolutely all my vacation for this purpose. And it turned out not only it was feasible, but the sense of freedom of being on the road, being self-sufficient, living an adventure. I could be at home sitting in my sofa watching TV, but here I was. When you run 5 marathons in 5 days in a place you don't know, it's an adventure every day. I was living in Southeast Asia, so I would run in Australia. I would see kangaroos, parrots, I would see all sort of things. And I would come back saying, the most amazing adventure these past 5 days. And I would just... And people would be like, oh, but you were running a marathon a day. I said, forget the marathon. It's just the adventure. It's incredible. So that's how I train for it, really.
How has achieving this goal of running around the world changed how you approach challenges in life now? Are you any different in dealing with adversity on, doing things that maybe other people would say, oh, I'm not sure. I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I can do that.
Well, I think it's something I'm more or less always had in me. From the age of 20, I left my country to go somewhere I didn't know, and I took this, what I call like a little leap of faith, thinking, okay, I'll just go with my 2 bags. I set up there in a place I don't know, whatever, and it's going to be fine. And I loved it so much that I did it again and again and again, and to many other countries. And I learned to speak many languages. I learned about so many cultures. The thing is that the reward, I'm always very conscious of the rewards I'm getting. And the rewards far outweigh any difficulty. And in this world run, the sense of achievement was, my reward was this beautiful experience of the world that nobody else has. Only a handful of... Do you realize more people have been to the moon? Literally, we're only 7 to have run around the world. And so I've got this unique privilege of having experienced the world, our planet, in a way so few people have. And the memories of everything and what I've been able to share with others, because I was writing my blog every day and now I've written 2 books about it, and being able to share that, to meet so many people from every walk of way and every place, it just so rich, the richness of it is an incredible reward.
Looking back, what surprised you most about yourself during this journey? Like we go to these things and sometimes how we act or how we deal with things, maybe we change a little bit. Did that happen to you?
Well, certainly during the world run is the happiest I have ever been in my life. I can't, I mean, I'm a pretty happy person. You see, I mean, I wake up every morning and I'm an 8 out of 10 about how happy am I to be around. I'm this person, but there during the world run, it was 10 plus every day. I can't explain it. And I was amazed that I was able to maintain this level of intensity for so long. I was happy, I was content, although I had almost nothing with me. I had a little bag with 3 shorts, 3 t-shirts, literally nothing at all. But I was so content. I never missed anything. And I know people think running is a way to go somewhere fast, but for me, it slowed down my life considerably. From the high-paced CFO career and everything to, hold on, you've got your little buggy with your stuff in it, with your shoes and computer, whatnot, and you're going to go 40 kilometers at a time and be patient. You're going to make it. And to me, I was amazed that I had this patience, that I never rushed it, that I was in the moment every day. I was in the adventure. I was living that very moment. And sometimes, I reread my blogs again and I remember all of them. There is not one blog of these 700 plus days of adventures that I read and say, oh, I've forgotten about that. I've forgotten nothing. It was slowly imprint in me of everything I was living day after day. And this, I was surprised that I was so patient and that I was able to slow down and just enjoy it so much. But in a way, I knew it would be the case, maybe.
So are there lessons of perseverance or resilience that you think others can take from your run?
I think it's about the run, but it's about anything else you set your eyes on. And, we've touched on it when I talked about the COVID earlier. I told you that it was never a case of demotivation or wanting to give up, because if you know precisely why you are doing what you're doing, what rewards you get out of it, you can't have a bad day. I give you an example. If you are a runner that is going to train for a marathon because you want to do a 3 hours 30 marathon, so you're going to do all your training going with a watch, and the watch will give you your reward. Oh, buddy, today was a good run. You ran faster than your marathon plan pace. Well done. And then the next day, too bad, buddy. Today was rubbish. You were so slow. So you let numbers give you a reward, and that affects you. On my world run, I knew what I wanted to get, that experience of the world, that adventure and everything. And my reward every day was it fun? Was it an adventure? Did you see things you've never seen before? Did you meet people you've never met before? Have you learned something today? Have you been amazed by what you have been, even if I'm in a snowstorm, have you been amazed by what the roads had thrown at you? So every day, tick, 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 all my rewards are there. I cannot lose. So when you have such an ambitious project, it's almost think of the reward, because the moment you're not getting your reward, your motivation will come crashing. So set this reward system in advance about what is going to feed your soul every day, and so that you keep wanting more and you keep going for it. So for me, this reward system, as I call it, was extremely important because I knew what I wanted. And it's so good to see that you're getting it every day. It's amazing.
That's such an interesting and like a really upbeat take on hard things. And you're just thinking of times, I'm just thinking as you're talking, times where I've had really, really challenging, through hike. It's like, oh yeah, if I just focused on, look where I am, look at the beauty, look at, this great village we're walking through. It's totally different as opposed to, oh geez, my foot is buggered, or how am I going to do 32 kilometers tomorrow? It's just such a different but great approach to like enjoying yourself and rewarding yourself for why you're there, which isn't the kilometers, isn't make the next town. It's enjoying the experience.
It is. And, there are examples, we are only to date 7 people to have run around the world. But of course, a lot more have launched and then something happened and they gave up. Most of the time it's an injury or something. But I think before there is an injury, there is a problem in the mindset. And, when I see people launching on their adventure and day after day, all they write to us in their blog, via Instagram or whatever they do is, today there were so many uphill and the bitumen chew me out and spit me out and it was so hard. I'm like, dude, you are only looking at things that upset you. So you're building such bitterness and anger about your journey because you see the difficult uphill. You see how you were slow today. You see how it was too hot for you. But look, you are running in the Nullarbor. Look at those trees. These are eucalyptus. There are 600 species of eucalyptus. Isn't that so fascinating? Is that an animal you've never heard before in the background? Is it not beautiful to be in the middle of desert and to still be able to run and progress on your adventure? It's what you focus on. That's why I'm talking about this reward, because having a reward system makes sure that you focus on the positives of the journey as opposed to everything that's difficult, because difficulty is a part of it. If you go for a hike or a run, it is going to be difficult. Otherwise, you would sit in your couch. That's easy. But you are not. You're going out for the good things. So remember the good things.
For listeners who have their own impossible goal, probably something easier than running around the world, but what would you give as advice to someone who has an impossible goal but hasn't started on?
I would give a few things. One is start planning. For me, the moment you start planning it seriously, you're already in the adventure. My adventure started 2 years before I actually did my first marathon of the journey. The moment you start planning it seriously, you're projecting yourself into it, and that's the start. So don't just toy with the idea. If really it's your crazy, impossible dream, start putting it down to paper and start planning. So that's number one. And two, make sure that your mind is ready, that you know what you want to get out of this journey and what are the positives that you want to gather along the way. And accept, for even's sake, accept. It's going to be hot. It's going to be cold. There's going to be wind. There's going to be rain. It's going to be hot. There's going to be uphill. There's going to be terrible terrain that is not made for you to run on. But this, you have to accept. You can't complain about it. That's part of the game. You don't complain about it. That's what it is. So just focus on the positive and accept this. If you accept this, then you see the real thing. Otherwise, you're just hiding your view of what you are experiencing.
Marie, it has been so enjoyable to hear about how you've done this and your such a positive approach to life. Thanks for sharing all of your experience on the podcast today.
Thank you very much, Richard. It was a pleasure talking to you and getting some echo to what I was saying as well. So thanks a lot.
Where can people find out more about you if they want to follow along or learn about your next incredible journey?
Well, of course, there is a book, Lootie's World Run. And then, of course, I've got an Instagram account, which I populated mainly during the run itself. It's on Instagram, I'm Lootie Run or Lootie Runner. And the same goes on Facebook. I think I'm Lootie's Run Around the World. If you just key Lootie, Lootie, you will find me. And I've got a website as well, lootierun.com. So you can find all of this on the internet. If you Google me, you will find all the sources. There are many videos, many photos, many blog reports, all the maps. I mean, everything that can make you dream and start your own journey, really. And you can always contact me. Yeah, I answer all my emails, so don't worry if you have questions.
I'll put links to all this in the show notes. And obviously, Lootie's World Run, a great book as we're coming into autumn. It's a cold, snowy, or rainy day. You just want to curl up around a fire. A great opportunity just to kind of explore somebody attempting something incredibly challenging. And maybe that'll be your inspiration this winter to take the first step on your impossible journey. So thanks everyone for listening to this episode of the 10 Adventures podcast. We'll be back next week to hear about more epic adventures. Bye-bye. Start planning your own adventure by visiting us at 10adventures.com and listen to other episodes of the 10 Adventures podcast on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else you find your podcasts.